Boo, boo, boo. All right, got to get rid of the ads, even though we all pay a bunch of money for Discord. All right, here we go. Hey, it's Friday, and we're doing a vodcast. And contrary to what some people might think, we're not going to do a vodcast about accessibility in video games because, first of all, I think we kind of talked through a solution on the server, and secondly, it's just we don't need to talk about it anymore. Anyways, we're going to talk about metagaming because metagaming is something that affects all tabletop RPGs and real life. It affects real life too, if you think about it. I'll give some examples of real life metagaming actually. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about metagaming, and primarily our server plays Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. But we also play a lot of the smaller, more obscure stuff. We also play second place Pathfinder second edition, which would really benefit from a lot of metagaming, like a lot. It's a pretty tough system, so the temptation to metagame is really strong in that one. Cyberpunk Red. I'm curious to see how metagaming, what sort of unique metagaming takes place in that situation.
Yeah.
I will try to contribute with what I know of running modern games, so my 3 isekai D&D games, and then also my experience with World of Darkness and those sorts of games. But yeah, we're gonna crack it open, and we're gonna dig into metagaming and try to figure out, I don't know, what is it? What do we need it? Should we avoid it? What's the situation? All right. So, Dom, what do you define as metagaming?
Um, so for metagaming in the course of TTRPG, I think it is when a player or anybody uses knowledge that the character that they're role playing does not have in order to um, do something that would not make sense in the context of that scene or that uh, that mechanic or whatever is going on at the moment that's happening.
Mm.
So I know it's kind of vague, but
Yeah, no, that
it
actually
is
matches up.
yeah.
Wikipedia lists metagaming parentheses role playing games parentheses as metagaming is a term used in role playing games which describes a player's use of real life knowledge concerning the state of the game to determine their character's actions when said character has no relevant knowledge or awareness under the
Yeah.
circumstances. And I feel like that is a very good, very
Yeah.
solid definition of metagaming. I think that it
Hmm.
is there's a broader definition than that. Um, I feel that metagaming is not only using knowledge that the human player has that the character does not, right? I also think it is the human player forcing, hear me out, forcing the character, the tabletop character, to do things they would not normally do because they, the player, wants a certain outcome or know that it would get them a certain outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of takes it a little bit further. It's more than just using player knowledge. Um, you know, well, I guess it is covered under the instructions because
Actually,
it
yes,
determines
it's
it
covered in that
determines their
because
actions. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. So I guess I just overdefined it. Overdefined it.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
to give it
What I'm
a
trying to say
understanding.
is it's not just a combat thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a role playing thing.
Yeah.
It's
It's not just
it's
yeah.
an everything, right?
Yeah.
Like so. Where do we even start? Do you think metagaming is bad? That's a good way to start.
Yes. Yeah.
Just that's your blanket statement. It's bad. Do you feel there are any exceptions to that rule where metagaming should be or could be allowed at the table?
In those, so whenever I think of those moments,
Uh huh.
it's not really. I don't like based off of the definition we just looked at. It's not really considered metagaming because a lot of times that it's it's knowledge that the. I mean, even if you were to think of like the way comes up is you got some knowledge and you're trying to use that knowledge to help your player in game, but then you actually you spend some time in thinking about it and you're like, okay, how would my character know this? And then if you come up with some BS way that makes sense
Mm-hmm.
in the thing, I'm okay because at least at that point, it's plausible that the character can do it. Maybe it took us a minute to step back and think for a second to see if my character will actually know this,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's solved with a roll. Maybe that's solved with just running through the steps a bit and everybody talking it out. Maybe it's just the fact of the another player having a scene where the other player informs your character,
Mm.
like those things. So I know I'm guilty of this. Is that sometimes something will happen off scene, right?
Right.
And then to make sure that my character knows about it, I'll just go and ask the other player, like, "Hey, what happened over there?"
Right. 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 Right.
But that's not necessarily out of character. But the
In
decision to
yeah.
ask that character was also a metagaming. Like, I use knowledge that my
Mm.
character did not have to influence my character to do something that would help them gain knowledge.
Mm. And do you feel that that's okay, or do you feel like you shouldn't do that either?
I feel like that's okay
What
because
what if you have an established character who is one of those lone wolf, out for themselves, never pays attention to other people characters, and then you saw this incredible scene as a human player that your player character knows nothing about, and you want your player character to know something about that, so now your character is suddenly interested in what the other characters get up to.
see at that point, then you're doing something your character wouldn't normally
So
do. But
then you're metagaming. Because
but
what you
I will.
described, you are in most cases talking about characters that I've seen that are in my games, and my games can be very difficult. And knowledge is definitely power, right?
Mhm.
And it would make sense that if your characters have any motivation at all to stay alive, they want to stay as informed as possible. I don't
Mhm.
consider it out of character for any of your characters that you've played to want to know what the other characters are up to. And and to kind of point out a good example of this, when you were playing as Elliot, and he got the dagger that makes you high all the time, right? You stopped asking to stay informed because you were playing him as being very aloof and very kind of calm and wrapped up in his own stuff and just contentedly high all the time. I feel like that was fantastic role playing. A lot of people, again, if you don't use a silly voice and you don't, act over the top, or you don't seem like a character right out of an anime, you're not role playing. But I think that subtle things like that, that's fantastic role playing, where you were like Elliot would be too content and too high and too relaxed to really care what everybody else is up to. Um, so yeah, I could kind of see that. But I do understand your point that it is still very motivated by metagaming because you're like, Gah, I really want my character to know what's going on here. So I'm going to make sure that, they ask, hey, what happened? Now, a good player who isn't
Yeah.
metagaming, right, would then wait for whatever the response was. And a lot of times you get in my games, the players say, oh, of course, I tell everybody everything. And you've heard me ask this a million times. I say, is there anything you don't tell them?
Yeah.
I always want to ask, is there anything
Yeah.
you don't tell them? And then yeah,
I kind of learned that from you with my DMing. I've been doing
yeah,
that too, especially in Cyberpunk.
because it's a lot easier if they're saying I share everything to be like, okay, everything, because if you say everything, that means everything that happened in that scene you've told them about, like everything. So if that implies that, if you were having like romantic flirty stuff with the bad guy, you mentioned, well, it got a little flirty. If there is any part of that scene or any part of that one-on-one that you don't want the others to know about, this is your opportunity to withhold that information. Yeah. I find that speeds gameplay up a lot more than what do you tell the rest of the party. Then you're
Yeah,
dealing with
exactly.
then you're dealing with the telephone game too. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I like that. I like that. I think, and this is where I'm very guilty of thinking that metagaming is okay, and you've probably experienced this in my games. I don't mind a certain amount of teamwork and table talk during combat because what I like to point out to people is you are a human being and you're living your human being life. 24/7, right? You are inside the thought construct that is your character. You're inside that little mech suit of imagination for maybe 3 or 4 hours a week. Okay, but if you are generous and if your imagination is large enough to consider this, they live their own life, right? All the stuff that we don't talk about, them taking a shit, them walking 9 hours in a day, down a muddy dirt road, them exploring a cave for 4 hours, right? We don't role play that stuff. We don't want to experience that stuff. That's fucking terrible. We want a fast travel button when we play a video game. We certainly don't want to have to experience walking 9 hours in a game, right?
Yeah.
If you and I were traveling together for 9 hours, it would not be in silence. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we would talk about stuff, right? By the time you and I were done walking 9 hours a day, camping 8 hours a night, and then filling the rest of the time trying to stay the fuck alive for a week, I get a feeling that I'd know a lot about you, right? I'd know, like, how do you fight? What do you like to fight with? How are you going to keep us alive? What skills do you have? What do you like? What are you good at? What motivates you? Like, I feel like this kind of stuff is everyday life that we don't have time for, right? I know Critical Role likes to take time for it, um, but like, and some of my players would love to have an entire 3-hour session of just in character conversating with each other at a restaurant, and that's sometimes fine too. But we can't cover every minute of every day, but every minute of every day is passing, right? So it's my belief as a storyteller that in combat, if you were like, oh shit, you have the Wand of Lightning Bolts, remember? Like, I don't think that that is inappropriate for a player to help another player remember that they had the Wand of Lightning Bolts on them, right? Like,
That's not an issue.
yeah. Like, I don't think that kind of table talk and that kind of metagaming, I think it is a gateway to toxic behavior because you will get alpha gamer players who think that the permission to table talk is the permission to become the team captain, right? And they don't just say, remember that you have the ebony fly in your backpack so you could use it to get a flight speed. They'll say, what the fuck is wrong with you? Use your ebony fly to get a flight speed. See, two different ways to deliver that information. I feel like that table talk, that metagaming table talk, is a useful tool that encourages the teamwork that the game is built around. I feel like forcing, like, in a combat scenario, being like, sorry, we're in combat, you have 6 seconds, you can't talk to each other for you can't say more than a couple of words because it's going to take more than 6 seconds, you can't strategize, you can't do anything. If you want to do all that stuff, you need to talk about it outside of the game. You want to yell to your friend that he should, like, run over and give you the flank, that's going to take your action for the turn. I don't agree with that, right? I don't agree with that. Some people would say that it's metagaming for me to allow my players to do that, right? To table talk. Table talk is a form of metagaming. And I think that it's metagaming that I am okay with to a certain point, right? I'll still move things along. I'll still make sure people aren't bossing other players around. If people are constantly suggesting to other people what to do to the point that it is all the time, that player will, of course, just be told, hey, you need to let everybody take their own turns, kind of thing. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. Lexia says, no offense, CRASHDOM, but I ain't paying $20 a session to just talk to people for 3 to 4 hours. We got to keep it moving and keep those dice rolling. Yeah, okay. I get it. Not all of us have so many friends and are not, dying from loneliness, Lexeus, but sure, okay. Just brag it out. So what is the worst case, and even if it's me, what is the worst offense? You can change the name to protect the innocent, unless it's me. You have to use my name if it's me. What is the worst case of a player metagaming in one of your games that you have seen? I know you haven't been DMing quote-unquote long, but it's been a couple of years, and you've run a lot of games to completion.
Yeah.
So
all my games have been players from this server who have been really good.
That's all right. Call them out if they've been bad. Call them out if they've been bad. It's fine.
I mean, there was a bit of metagaming in Monster Hunter.
Okay. Where we assumed monster weaknesses were going to match up with the video
Yeah.
game?
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair, that's fair.
There's that, and then let me see. I'm trying to think if there's any of that happened in Rhyme. It kind of, I mean, it always happens whenever there's a troll. Always. The troll's the most iconic. Oh yeah, it's of course it's weak to fire.
Well,
like, at that point, I'm like, people, the characters live in this world, and that's the most common weakness for a monster inside the world of
right.
D&D. So I really never paid any mind. I assume everybody knows this. That's like the stories that you grow up on as a little kid in this D&D world.
And I don't know if we've had this conversation on our VODCAST before, but I think we've talked about it before, where I like to tell people, especially early on in the campaign, your characters would be aware of this, or everyone in this region would know about this, or it's a common knowledge amongst people with your background or people with your profession that this, right? Like, don't even start the recall knowledge checks. Don't even worry about it. Like, yeah, you would know if they ask, like, hey, would my character know anything about this? Absolutely. Like, sure. Yeah, there's probably things that you would know about it. Yeah. But so trolls, so monster weaknesses is the one you've dealt with the most, is people kind of making assumptions about monster weaknesses.
Actually, according to chat, me, apparently he did something and I'm supposed to roast him about it. I don't remember. And Leah says there's something too.
I have one. Call me out in Cyberpunk. Daedalus was high at the end of the food truck combat. She technically wouldn't have been aware enough of Sekhmet being weird at the end, but Day mentioned it a few sessions later. Man, imagine being able to remember a few sessions later. That's incredible. All right, man.
But I mean,
teach
almost
me.
Everybody was really sus about Sekhmet, and I'm pretty sure at some point Shades or Doc, who kind of like lives next door, would have told you about it.
Right.
So I'm okay with that. Like, usually if this metagaming happens, but at the time where we don't realize it, like, it sounds like really bad or like off the wall and makes no sense, and when you sit back and think about it, and then there's a way you could have routed to that, I'm usually okay. Like, it's when it's blatant and in the moment, it makes no sense. This one I like, no.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Oh man, I have many examples, for sure. I have many personal examples of times as a player when I have metagamed, and I have plenty of real bullshit behaviors that I have pulled in the past to try to justify my metagaming. And I think Orf was kind of dealing with this in the past week or so with one of his players. The biggest cop-out of a DM turned player or a veteran player who is just tired of doing the same newbie dungeon bullshit over and over again is the monster hunter. My character's a monster hunter. Their background's hunting monsters. I took all of the knowledge skills. I obviously know everything about monsters, so it's okay if I metagame, because that's what my whole character's based on, is being a monster hunter. And it's like, okay, cool. So what if I made a character, hear me out, that was a fighter, right? Does that mean I don't need to worry about fighting anymore? Because, I made a fighter, so I shouldn't need to roll any attack rolls, right? Because, my character's a fighter. He's good at fighting. He should always hit. He should always hit the monster, right?
If someone came to me and told me they made a monster hunter and they took all the knowledge skills, I'd be like, oh great, awesome. So you're going to be using your bonus action almost every turn to
recall knowledge, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh no. My background. I took a background. And I also, I took a background, and I have expertise in 2 of those monster knowledge skills.
All right, yeah. So you're probably going to succeed.
Yeah, so you're gonna roll really well. That's awesome. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So I've definitely tried to pull that bullshit, right? I have pulled the Larionis special, which you're gonna see on Tuesday night soon. Which is, my character's an elf and they're super old. So my super old character's already seen and done it all, baby. So, like, it's not metagaming because I've already done it all, baby. I'm role-playing. I'm role-playing. I already did it. I already know. I was there. I did it all. It's not metagaming anymore. I know everything there is to know about Dungeons & Dragons because I'm 350 fucking years old.
All right. I hope
All right.
a good history check.
Do you know what I'm saying? But like these are the tactics that people will take to not have to worry about metagaming, right? Like because they say, "Oh, well, I'm not metagaming because my character fucking knows everything." I'm a knowledge cleric who multiclassed into lore bard and has 4 expertise in knowledge skills, a 20 intelligence score, and you're gonna make me roll a recall knowledge check? You're gonna tell me that
yeah. You might not know this one specific thing.
You're gonna tell me that I'm metagaming because I used fire and a slow spell on the Hydra? What? Right? Like, right? So one of the conversations that came up this past week on the server is, well, it's that if the DM has experienced players, and this is such a 5th edition way of thinking, it's the DM's responsibility to change all the monsters so that the experienced player can't metagame. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I don't think I agree with that. Let's check chat. Let's see. Butler Log says, I don't have a specific example, but a common metagaming cause is a PC being possessed, cursed, or having a dodgy secret. For sure. Sven says, Butler Log, those are hard scenarios for sure. You got to have players willing to suspend their knowledge and act like they don't know, because not actually letting them know and the possession suddenly revealing itself right before the big turn event is usually received very poorly by players. Butler Log says, I've not recognized a single monster so far in Gatewalkers and barely any in Strength of Thousands. It is sick. If you didn't know, Butler Log is a Pathfinder kid now. So they're talking about Pathfinder 2 here. Here you go. If you've already done it, 300-year-old elf, why do you only have 300 XP? Yeah, you have a level 1 character, the 350-year-old elf.
You might have been living for 300 years, but you might have been probably was just like what was your background?
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't do. Yeah, it sounds like you didn't do much. Yeah. All right. So let's address these tough scenarios up here. PC being possessed, PC being cursed. I'm gonna add PC having a disease, and having a dodgy secret. All right. So 100% agree. 100% agree. Red is a fantastic player. But if Red really cares about his character, and any of those scenarios are happening to his character, Red is going to be very upset. Like, it's just going to happen. Me and Remy, for example, if the DM's like, your character is evil now, you have to kill everyone, we're like, sorry fam, we're going to have to take you out of this fucking world. You know what I'm saying? Like we just lead into that shit, right? Like, okay. I get it, right? If you got a great character and it's a good story and you're gripped by it, do you know what I'm saying? It's hard. It's hard to fuck over your character, right? It's hard to fuck over your thought construct, your alter ego, your phantasona, as it were, right? If the DM's playing with diseases in a game where a paladin can't just jerk you off for 5 hit points of lay on hands and get rid of all your diseases can really ruin your character, right? They could ruin your character. If the DM is like, ooh, you're fighting this monster, it's covered in filth. When it wounds you, the wound sizzles with infection. That, to me, is the DM telling you, you should probably make sure you don't have any diseases, son. So I don't really feel like disease frequently falls under the metagaming, but if I were to, because I don't want to have to take notes. If I marked a character's miniature as diseased without telling them why, they would immediately come up with some reason in character why they needed to get checked out by another PC. I don't feel so good, boss. Maybe you could take a look at me.
But I mean, like,
Yeah.
if realistically you're an adventurer out there and
Mm-hmm.
you fight some weird, poison-looking disease monster,
Yeah.
and you get hurt, and now you don't feel well, like for some reason you just don't feel well afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes that big of a difference if they're gonna go get themselves checked.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly. Yeah.
if specifically that disease is supposed to be something where you don't have any symptoms whatsoever until a certain point, then at that point I wouldn't let them know.
Mm. How do you handle a ghost possession? Here's a great question. How do you handle ghost possession, right? At this point, everybody's a veteran. They know that when their ghost is around, it's going to try to possess somebody. Ah, spooky, they're possessed. Oh, no, right? But, like, how would you, with semi-veteran players, still give them a spooky aha moment with a possession without taking the player aside into a secret chat, which will cause everyone to be suspicious? How could you do it, right? How could you do it without everybody knowing and having to role play that they don't know?
If I really, really want a aha moment, like I have to have an aha moment in this campaign, I don't do it to a PC.
Do it to an NPC instead.
Yeah, you do it to an NPC they care about.
Yeah, that's smart. That's real smart. Don't put the burden on the players to do that. Without too many spoilers, there's a campaign everybody loves on our server, and there's a ghost encounter on it. And per the written adventure, the ghost very much wants to possess one of the characters, to the point that it's like a plot point in the book. And it is a point of contention among many DMs running that adventure, because it's like, I don't want to tell my player, like, oh, yeah, you're this person now. That's who you are. Sorry, they possessed you. It's over. I don't want to put them in a situation where they have to do that. So in both the runs that I had in that campaign, the targets of that spell were talked to ahead of time, out of session ahead of time, to prime them for that possibility. And sure, it took the aha moment away from 1 out of 5 players, but it put us in a position where it could be a great aha moment for the other 4 players, and an excellent role-playing challenge for the 1 player who did get possessed. So I do think that if you're gonna possess as part of the story, if you know there's an encounter coming up that has possession, talk to the player that is targeted for that, or a player could handle it ahead of time.
If you have a player that if you guys been playing enough and you know that this player is gonna enjoy and get a kick out of role playing as a whatever this person they're possessed as for a few sessions, sure. I mean, they're probably gonna have a blast about it, and then their other PCs might like that aha moment too, and that way everybody gets to be a part of it.
Right.
If you don't have a player that's like that, then take an NPC they care about and do it and make it be that person, and then they'll have that all the players will share that in that aha moment when it happens.
Yeah,
and
fair.
If it has to be a player and it's not supposed to be a moment, then if they see, I mean, they're I'm assuming they're characters that live inside this world or have access to be able to ask somebody like, what the heck's going on? Let them see it if it's not supposed to be a thing.
Yeah.
And then have them do what they want to try and deal with it.
Fair.
Because even if it doesn't necessarily have to be a secret for it to be interesting.
All right. On the topic of possessed, one time that you could do possession that doesn't have to be a long con is one of my favorite bosses from Final Fantasy VI was named, I think his name was X Zone or X something. Anyways, this dude would possess a party member, and then that party member would turn against the rest of the party, and the only way to get him out back onto the field was you had to kill the character that he had possessed, and then a certain amount of time would pass and he would possess a different character, and then you'd have to do that. I thought that was a fucking amazing fight. and what a cool mechanic, right? So, kind of building off of that, dominate monster, dominate person, um, spells that would take away player agency, right? That's one of the biggest taboos of tabletop role-playing game, right? You don't take away the player agency. So I don't say, you're possessed, so I'm going to control your character now. Go make yourself a sandwich because it's my turn to play Dungeons and Dragons with your character. I don't want to do that, right? So I want players to play their character as a bad guy in that moment. And that is where I see, that's kind of to me the litmus test of how good of a tabletop role player you are. If I tell you you have been dominated by this monster, your goal is to kill your friends, and then they're like, my character puts away his +5 sword, and he's gonna punch everyone to death because that's how much he hates them. He wants to kill them with his bare hands. Yeah! It's like, really? Because I want you to fight your allies as if you're fighting for your life against the boss of the fucking game. Like, that's what you've been told to do. And then you turn around, you're like, I dropped my sword. I don't know.
That's one of those things. That's one of those things where, as a human player outside, you have the knowledge of your character being possessed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then to try and evil genie it. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I shoot a lightning bolt at 5th level straight in the air, hitting no one but telling everyone, surrender now. It's like, is that what you do to the final boss of the game? Is that what you do? If you were fighting the final boss of the game, you'd shoot your 5th level spell slot straight up in the air. That's what you'd fucking do. Don't fucking evil genie me in my own lamp. Don't you fucking evil genie me in my own fucking lamp. That's not what you do. I want you to kill the whole party. That's what I want you to fucking do. I want you to become the biggest, baddest boss they've ever faced in the whole game. That's what I'm asking you to do. If you do not do that, that's metagaming. Like, that's metagaming. Like, that gets me really upset. Like, when players can't lean into those kind of scenarios, and, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, Crash, that's bullshit, and you're bullshit, please don't apply for any of my games. Just don't. I don't want you at my table. If you hate that idea that I might pit you against the other players via like a dominate monster or dominate person spell, let me tell you, it happens in like almost every single game I run. There are scenarios where the party has to face one or more of their own who have been turned against them. It's an amazing trope, and it's an amazing role-playing opportunity, and it's an amazing fight to have to go through. And so,
there's one of those moments where you're gonna. That's the like one of the only ways you can get like
get some good PvP. Yeah.
Well, not even that, but have an objective in an encounter that's not just kill the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that time you don't want to kill your friend, so now your objective is to how do I stop them from being controlled?
Yeah.
If the person, then you go out, either you go after the person who's controlling them, or you try and knock this person out.
Right.
You try and do you do this. Now you have objectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a really good. I don't do it all the time, but it is pretty good to do it every once in a while.
Let's.
Yeah, that is a prime metagaming target.
Oh, for sure. Let me see. I think the difference is not asking the DM in all these cases, right? DM, you said my wound sizzled. Does it look grody or feel off instead of acting without information? Good point. More communication is a good way to avoid looking like you're metagaming. It's actually a great way to Trojan horse in some good metagaming. I'm going to tell you as a player who sometimes plays in very challenging adversarial games. I played a lot of like early edition D&D, which could be very adversarial. I played a lot of Hackmaster, which was specifically adversarial in its design. Nothing wrong, ... with trying to get the information you have downloaded into your character, but you need to learn the right ways to do it, right? And so people in chat are kind of pointing out, Communication, listening to the DM and the clues, and paying attention to what's happening in the world, being invested in the DM's lore, being invested in the lore of the setting and the world. Those kind of players will very frequently get away with quote-unquote metagaming because the DM knows that they have a vested and invested interest in the setting, in the world, in what is happening. So, yeah, are they getting useful information for a combat scenario? Yeah, but they're also just pushing the plot, building the world, right? They're doing more than just... I looked this up in the monster manual, and, this is bullshit. Trolls cannot regenerate anymore after they have fire damage. Any fire damage, there's no more regeneration on trolls. That's in the rules. It goes a whole round. Okay, but yeah, that's the common run-of-the-mill basic bitch troll in the monster manual, right? This troll is described as being ancient. This troll is described as being battle-hardened, scar-ridden. Maybe this troll has lasted so long because it's developed some sort of resistance to the fire. Maybe acid is the only way to damage this troll. Maybe fire damage must be immediately applied to the wound itself, or that damage doesn't stick. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there could be a lot of different variations on that troll, and if you are telling your DM, no, that's not how it works, that's metagaming. I'm sorry. I mean, that's metagaming.
That's not even beyond metagaming. That's just poor behavior.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. Or you're playing in Adventurers League or Pathfinder Society, I guess. But I mean, let's see what else chat's got to say. PC got replaced by a doppelganger for 10 sessions, and we didn't find out for ages. So I have heard stories about the doppelganger scenario, right? And Colville had a great one with this, involving a black slod replacing one of the player characters. He actually had a character that they died, and then while the party was fighting, he had the dead character replaced with a doppelganger character, right? And then when the fight was over, they were like, oh, shit, Jimmy, what are you going to do about your character? And then, they're like, I guess I'll just roll up a new one. And the DM's like, actually, you know what, Jimmy? You're fine. And the rest of the party's like, what? And then the player's like, oh, are you sure? And he's like, absolutely. What you thought was a fatal wound, it wasn't, right? So damn, this guy's being really nice to us. So after a few sessions, the DM goes to the player and says, hey, you actually did die. You haven't been playing your character at all. You're playing a doppelganger, and I wanted it to be as authentic as possible, so I didn't tell you until now. And I understand if you're upset with me, blah, 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 but what a convincing way to sell this, right? And then the player was like, holy shit. And he's like, are you willing to help me tell the rest of this story? Can you keep it a secret? Can you keep it going? And the player's like, yeah. And they didn't know for a very long time until the aforementioned, as Sven pointed out in chat, the aforementioned really important fucking fight where they needed that person on their side. And that's when the player was like, booyah, and betrays the party. Holy shit. Is it horrible? Yeah. Would you be mad? Yeah. Would you ever forget that story? You would never forget that happened. You would never forget that happened. Would your players ever trust you again? Probably not. But what a cool way to handle that sort of scenario. Let's see. Orpheus says he feels called out. Yeah, that's fair. Butlerlog says, same for Troll or Hydra. If I know out of character, I'll ask the DM what my character would know and act accordingly. I do this a lot.
That is 1,000% fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I will frequently say, you can watch any episode of Monster Hunter. I'll say, hey, we're all monster hunters. What would we already know about this monster? Or is there any common knowledge that we would have about this monster? Or would we be aware of anything about this monster? Is this a common enough monster that we would know about it? And your way of dealing with that was, well, you guys are from the mainland, but you're on this, this island where things have evolved slightly differently. So this is what you know about the mainland version of this monster. And I thought that was a pretty clever way to kind of spice that up a little bit. I mean, I'm doing that in Curse of Strahd. It's like, you know what a mummy is, but do you know what a Barovian mummy is?
Yeah,
Right?
and that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah. Let's see. Or even better, in the Isekai Curse of Strahd games, you guys know what vampires are like from movies and books, but do you know what vampires in Barovia are like? Right? Like, there's some differences there. There's a lot of differences. So I think that's been pretty fun. Orpheus says, I have a player possessed by the ghost, and we handled it the same way Crash described. That's very cool. I have a skill in my game called Check Your Scouter. You use a part of your action economy to see what your character knows about the monster. Yeah, recall knowledge. That's all good. Durgan says, I did something very similar with a player I knew well, but the ask was vague enough, so it was half a surprise to him as well. Nice. Orpheus says, is it changing their agency or changing their choices with those spells? Well, I think we've talked about player agency before. On a different vodcast, maybe. I know I talked about it when the XP to level 3 thing came out, where he was talking about spells that remove player agency.
We did that as a podcast. I think that was like one of your.
Yeah. Players need to be able to do things on their turn. That's my idea of player agency. Like, if you lose your turn over and over and over again, that feels bad. It still happens. 5th edition is bullshit. So it's gonna happen to you, but we're trying really hard to move past that happening all the time. So yeah, if your turn comes up and the DM says, I want you to kill the heroes as effectively as possible, that's still your agency. Like, you still have to make those decisions. How do you kill them? Do you go full Batman and use your knowledge of all their weaknesses, Oh, what's up?
I just thought of something kind of silly, and it might be pretty cool as a way to do the whole possession thing. And it's probably too much work, but like the idea of if someone gets possessed, you instead of just saying they got possessed, you said they got hit by some type of spell, right? Mm-hmm. And you just take them to another scene, and there's a bunch of enemies on that scene, and there's the same number of enemies as your allies.
Banishment style. That could be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I have considered doing that. It is a lot of work, especially in Foundry, which doesn't handle dual scenes very well. It doesn't handle multiple scenes very well. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. I will take any opportunity to fight the party from Cryptic Muffin.
I will say one thing. So in Cyberpunk, in like a modern game, when we're playing as modern characters, I feel like I've had less to deal with. It's also because a lot of people don't really know the system that well too. But I really haven't had too many issues with metagaming in terms of content. Like oh, what do I know about? And like a lot of times it's like they'll run into like a gang, and the gang is like almost all the gangs in Cyberpunk are like themed.
Yeah.
Behind something, and so it's a lot of times like, okay, what do I know about this gang? And then and then you'll explain something, and that you'll explain it to them, like describe it to them, and then they'll say like, okay, this is kind of like this movie property. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, you guys are characters. This Cyberpunk takes place in like, dystopian future America, but like all the stuff that happened in the past happened, right? So anything from history. If you run into a bunch of gang members that are like based off of like, I don't know, Wizard of Oz or something like that, you can kind of guess what they're going to be doing. And so like I don't know how much in like a modern game, how much of that content-based metagaming happens, and that if it is considered metagaming at that point. Now the whole like, okay, there's an event that happened, my character was not a part of, and then I somehow are making decisions based off of that event that I was not a part of. That can still happen. and that happens. But I feel like in a modern setting game, or something like that, the content based metagaming seems to be a little less.
I can see that. I can see that to a certain extent. Here's one of the things that I think is a challenge regarding metagaming and modern themes, right? It's very difficult when people are like, and this is something that dates back to earliest D&D, where in earliest D&D you were yourself, and you were experiencing the virtual world, right, of Dungeons and Dragons through the avatar you made. But it was less about role playing, and it was more about cooperative problem solving, right? It was like escape room. Every week was like escape room with math, right? And so that generation of players, I think especially, and then that mindset of human being still exists, right? So they are like, well, in real life, I'm a physicist, or in real life, I'm an engineer, or in real life, I'm a biochemist. And so I know these things, and I don't, I know that my character just needs to get this and this and this, and they can make this happen. I know that if I cast this spell, it will create this energy type that I could then use IRL to cause this effect to happen, right? And you've heard me say a million times, like, I don't want your science in my Dungeons and Dragons, right? Don't bring your fucking science over here. This is a magic setting. Got magic. Don't worry about your fucking science over here, right? So I feel like in a modern game that can happen very easily, and people can be very obdurate when you're like, cool that you know this, but your character that you built knows about cars, right? Like, you made a guy that knows about cars. They're a car guy. They know everything about car. You put max points in car. They drive car good. They know about car. They fix car. They stunts with cars. Car guy. They aren't a physicist. They aren't a chemist. They aren't a doctor, right? They're a car person, okay? So it doesn't matter that we're in a modern setting, and it doesn't matter that you're so fucking smart in real life. This is the character that you made, right? I did find when I ran like World of Darkness and other games set in a more modern setting, that there is definitely some frustration there, especially among the more intelligent IRL players, right? Because they're like, well, I'm as close to me as I've ever been. Like, I should be able to use my real life knowledges, my real life stuff. This isn't metagaming because it's happening in real life, right? It's happening in the modern world. Like, it's not metagaming for me to know this stuff. But like,
in that case, you should have made you.
You should have made you. You should have made you. Exactly. In my Curse of Strahd Isekai games, none of you guys made D&D nerds because you didn't want to take the easy way out and be like, well, my character's a D&D nerd. Wouldn't they know about trolls? Wouldn't they know about zombies? Have they heard of Strahd von Zarovich? Have they heard of the Curse of Strahd module, right? Like, you guys didn't want to take that easy way out, right? But the worst thing that I've seen, and part of, and I don't mean to bring artificers into this, but I'm going to bring fucking artificers into this. Artificer is the gateway to metagaming, okay? Like, if you are the kind of player who gravitates towards the Artificer, just like me and the other DMs who never play, and when they do play, they don't want to have to worry about metagaming, so they're like, my character's a monster hunter. My character's the child of famous adventurers that grew up on stories about monsters. I know everything about Dungeons & Dragons because that's my background. If you are an engineer, a chemist, a physicist, if you're any kind of smart person in real life and you play an artificer because you think that will allow you to use your real life knowledge and the real life fucking internet to say that your character invented all of these things in the fucking game, you need to just get the fuck out of my face. Like, I hate that so much. It is also incredibly disrespectful to the people that invent things. Because in real life, Tony Stark doesn't exist. So cry it out on that one. Tony Stark doesn't fucking exist. He didn't go into a fucking cave in the desert and make a goddamn mech suit. It didn't really happen. That's made up. Doesn't fucking happen. When you invent things, it takes years. It takes years to invent things. You gotta work really, really fucking hard to make one fucking invention. So don't turn around and tell me that your goddamn artificer knows how to make a fucking motorcycle because you looked up the schematics on the goddamn internet. Okay. Anyways, so I think that artificers can lead to a certain amount of metagaming, because players will view their skill set as an opportunity to introduce modern mechanics into the game that really don't have a place there. And because 5th edition doesn't have very well-defined rules about inventing schematics and formulae like Pathfinder 2 does, it can get out of hand very quickly. Anyways.
I know you on the server a while ago, and I thought of something. It's like,
yeah.
A lot of times when you describe it, I think it's because they're just taking real life knowledge and trying to throw it into
right.
D&D. But if you had that person who wants to make a motorcycle, right, in your fantasy game, but they say, okay, what in-universe things are they could probably pull together to make a fantasy motorcycle,
right?
Like, I'm an artificer, so I'm gonna go look at this. I know there's this wind spell.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get a scroll of that. I know there's a magic item that maybe I don't know does something that makes something spin, like a ring of Ram or something like that. And then a cart, and then maybe I need to get special wood from like an ancient tree in that.
Right. So now
in your thing, and I want to throw that together to make my motorcycle.
The best example of a 5th edition artificer taking their time and working through the wonder of discovery is Series 1 Critical Role Percy, who wasn't even a fucking artificer. He had ideas, and Mercer was like, Taliesin, calm your tits, bro. Like, you can't have every cool thing that you think of just because your character is smart and has tinkering tools. We're going to work on them one thing at a time. So what is the one thing you want to build right now? Well, I want to make a sniper rifle. It's like, okay, so we're going to work on that. And then eventually you'll get it. And then we can work on something else. But like, I just feel like because there's no system in place, and don't come at me with Valdus Spire and that fucking craftsman, don't even do it. There's nothing in place to help the artificer be an actual artificer, right? They're just a free magic item dispenser, and a very powerful pet class. So I feel artificer definitely, especially the 5e artificer, definitely creates, and I would assume that the inventor, the alchemist, I think that those two classes would probably also serve as a gateway to metagaming for some players in the Pathfinder setting as well. And I would even assume that an inventor type character in Cyberpunk or in World of Darkness would also kind of, cause that sort of same behavior to happen. Like,
they actually have a system, like with Cyberpunk, there is the tech, and that person has an ability where they can invent anything. It's pretty much, if you want to homebrew an item, this is you take points into this skill, and you pretty much can make anything.
Right.
But there's a cost to it. There's a cost and a crap load of time to it.
Right. And then that's another thing that you have to, if you want to be that kind of character, you also need to make sure you're joining the right kind of campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most 5e games run too fast for any sort of real crafting, Yeah. All right, let's check out the chat. Let's see. Lex says, or if I don't mean to call anyone out, I just want to keep the story moving. Yes, there are times for downtime and relaxing and chatting, but I also want that time to be used for something. Fair enough. Butler Log says, I will play out mind control to the fullest. I will be as merciless as instructed, but long term, longer than a few encounters, possession or duplicity would not be enjoyable for me. That's fair. I have a dark secret. When I was playing in Curse of Strahd, before the game got canceled, my DM came to me ahead of time and asked me, would you be willing to be Strahd's kid? and you are the reason that the party gets brought to Barovia. You bring the party to Barovia because you want allies to help you take down Strahd. And I was like, that's a pretty cool angle. All right, I'll do it. So I made sure that my character had ranks in performance and deception so that I could support better that, that whole facade or whatever. And that was going to be, if I survived, I didn't know if I was going to survive, but that was going to be a pretty good long con of when they find out, like, wait, you're the reason we got pulled into the mist? Like, I was like, that's going to be a pretty crazy encounter, right? Unfortunately, campaign kind of fizzled out. I guess not unfortunately for maybe it is unfortunately for my Curse of Strahd players, because now they're in my Curse of Strahd games, and I don't know if they are happy with that decision or not. Let's see. Cryptic Muffin says, this happened to my wizard. I dropped a meteor swarm on my friends. Beautiful. Then Time Stop, Delayed Fireball, and Cone of Cold. No, that's really nice. People wording their way out of control is metagaming. Your character's control, they want to do what they're told. Absolutely, Butler Log. Let's see. Red Kobo Game says it makes the fight more dynamic for sure. Following clues, learning what hints the DM is dropping and playing. Yeah, those are actual player skills that can help you bring metagaming knowledge to your character. And a good DM is going to constantly be giving you those opportunities to metagame without metagaming, right? They're going to reward you for paying attention, because that's one of the best things you could do when you are a player is pay attention, right?
And if you want to think about it, at that point, it's not because the DM gave a description. And that means there's information your character has gotten, and now they can make a decision. I want to follow up on that information that I just received. And how you want to follow up on that information? Yeah, you have. What would your character do if they got this? If they're curious, okay, hey DM, what is this about that you just explained? And then that's how you get the more information. And if you know, like as a player, you already figured it out, and you're trying to get your player down that line to get there. If they got the information, how would your player? That's part of the story. Is how did your player come to this conclusion?
Well, and I think that to a certain extent, that is where the line between how role play is the role playing game and how ROLL play is the game, right? Yeah. Are you playing a game where you are showing up to crush fucking monsters, see big numbers, get cool loot, go find bigger monsters, rinse and repeat, everyone's on board for that, that's the game? I think that in a game like that, a little bit more metagaming is probably okay. I think those players are not going to enjoy being forced to betray the party via magic. They're not going to appreciate Dom's wizard, who could end this thing right now with a spell, not ending it right now with a spell because Dom says, well, my character wouldn't know that spell would end the fight automatically. And your characters wouldn't know to tell my character that it could do that. So I'm not going to do that. Like, I could see some players getting really angry, right? Because they're there to kill monsters, see big numbers, get loot, rinse and repeat. Right. So how much of a game is it, and how much of a role play experience is it? That's kind of a line, and we always talk about session 0, but that's definitely something to talk about in session 0.
That's the avatar. Like, this is I'm controlling a character. I'm not role playing a character. I'm controlling a character.
Right. I am in the world right now. I'm a smart ass motherfucker. I'm in the world right now, and I want to win. Like, there are games like that. If that's the kind of game you're in, maybe you don't even need to worry about. Yeah, maybe you don't need to worry about metagaming, right? Maybe you're just there to fucking crush monsters and have fun. That's fine too. But you got to make sure that the whole group is one camp or the other. Because they're going to get very frustrated one way or the other about it. Let's see. Butler Log says, if someone tells me this monster can't do that, and they haven't rolled any recall knowledge checks on them, I will be livid. Yeah. To me, the most disgusting thing a player could do is quote the monster manual at their dungeon master, or God forbid, quote the adventure at their dungeon master. Could you imagine? I've had it happen. I have had it happen. I've had players that are like, I run to this very specific location before the rest of the party can get there, and I'm like, I see, and they're like, I want to roll a perception check, and it's like, okay, you don't find anything. I want to look again. I was like, you don't see anything. They're like, it has to be here, and I'm like, what has to be here? What has to be here? And they know that in the adventure, there's a thing there, right? And they wanted to get that thing before anybody else in the group could get that. They wanted to fucking ninja loot this thing before anybody else in the party could get that thing. What? Do you know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah, like, we're not playing. To me, D&D is not a new game plus situation. Yeah.
I don't even know how like.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see.
That would have been a break time for me.
Let's see. In Red Hand Doom, trying to have Thanlin kill the heroes was kind of fun despite missing all his attacks. Yeah, I mean that was just RNGesus deciding that Thanlin didn't want to do it, and that was beautiful. But you at least tried. Let's see. Wisdom. Let's see. Extra life, the only chance to get a +5 magical weapon. Pretty much, yeah. Okay. Oh, interesting. Alright. Common metagaming I see as the player. Common metagaming I see as the player is not just quite getting the game yet. Player 1 does something, player 2 does something else. Player 1 tries to participate in player 2, 3, and 4's thing simultaneously. Yeah. So we had a split party. A lot of my groups have split parties right now because there's a lot of stressful shit happening, and there's a lot of time-sensitive shit happening. And one of the ways that I've been having to do it is actually physically separate their miniatures into different piles on the table. To kind of remind them, like, no, you're over here. Even better though would be maintaining separate roleplay scenes, and then they don't even have a miniature on that scene. They're just viewing it through like camera bot basically. And then I think that could be a very useful way too, because you see these are the characters in this scene. You are not in this scene. You can't be commenting. You can't be asking questions. You can't participate in this scene. Like, I know it can be very frustrating because you hear this conversation happening and you're like, oh shit, ask her about this. Ask her about this. You're not there. You specifically said, I'm not going there. You're not there. So you can't ask her these fucking questions. And you can't ask the other players to ask them questions. That's metagaming.
I know I think I'm pretty guilty of this because I do this a lot.
But yeah.
While a role play scene is happening, I don't mute my mic, and then I'll make a comment myself, like out loud while speaking. I realize my mic is open, and I'm pretty sure I've done that a few times in Curse of Strahd while somebody else is doing something. And they'll say something like, "Oh man, so and so in this," and then my mic is open, and I'll see it light up, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" Now
right, yeah.
But and then there's sometimes where like I'm watching TV. I guess maybe I'm one of those people who talks when I'm watching TV.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Where you're like, oh, don't go in there. Oh, I wonder if this person's the main bad guy, like stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Oh man. Let's see. Skill. Orpheus asked Butler Log skill dogpiling. I think that is not so much metagaming as just bad player behavior. There's 5 of us. Like, we're all going to roll a check because now we have 5 chances to make the check. I'm really bad about this in Pathfinder. Ash lets me get away with it, and he probably shouldn't. But, like, I'm a summoner, so my Eidolon has all the same skills that I have. So I'll just roll twice for, like, every check. I'll be like, oh, I roll, and get my Eidolon rolls also. And he doesn't use like false information results. A lot of times he doesn't use hidden rolls. So like it's just pure bennies for me, right? I essentially am rolling with advantage because I get to roll every check twice out of combat. And like letting your players roll 5, 6, 7 times, letting the fucking familiars roll, letting the animal companions roll. We'll eventually pick this lock. There's 12 of us. One of us is bound to get a nat 20. Nah. I think that's just poor DMing and poor player behavior at that point. The skill piling. Yeah.
So there's in Cyberpunk they actually have a section about this in their rules that they allow you to re-roll checks, but they say you have to have a better chance on your second try or your third try. You have to have a better chance than the tries before.
Oh, you have to somehow increase that bonus each time.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting way of doing it. Yeah. Let's see. Can I turn Dom up a smidge? Well, now that we're at the end of the podcast, sure. Yeah. I'll turn him up. Sorry about that.
All right.
Next time, Cryptic Muffin, if you tell me right away, I can fix it. Let's see. Party attacks. I'm playing an Inventor in Pathfinder 2 Outlaws as well, which can also craft anything in the game. I'm curious how Techie in CPR and Inventor in CP or PF2E will compare. Cyberpunk Red and Pathfinder. Okay. Let's see. Darby comments that Cyberpunk Red is way more open. Pathfinder 2E is level gated. I would say that Cyberpunk Red is level gated by funds, right? Isn't it Poverty Simulator?
Funds and time.
Yeah. So.
And also, if you fail, that's a lot of the wasted time.
Let's see. They have different goals, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Cryptic Muffin says, I actually really hate crafting, ironically, so I don't know if I'll engage much in the Pathfinder 2E crafting system. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, and I think it's better than the 5E crafting system, but it certainly ain't anything to write home about. But it's
It's chopping over time.
Yeah. It's like time is money, friend, is essentially the summation of the Pathfinder crafting system. Darby says, I love split parties all day, every day. Some people are into it. Some people lose focus pretty quick. Let's see. I know a few things that have been happening in Curse of Strahd, but I don't use any of that knowledge and just let the event play out. Yes, I want to end on that. I want to actually end on that. There's a lot of great comments here, but we are over time. So I have 2 Curse of Strahd Isekai games, and I have a 3rd Curse of Strahd Classic game. Now, my Curse of Strahd Classic game, they are sweet babies that need protecting. Is my wife, my kid, my adopted kid, / one of my best friends of all time, and his beautiful wife, right? So it is a friends and family game. They told me, we ain't using that bullshit injury system. We're gonna have magic, and then they only picked only one of them picked a class that actually had magic. But then we're gonna have magic, and we're not gonna have injuries. Right? We're babies. You're gonna baby us. So that group is pretty bad about metagaming. I'll be honest. They're not super duper skilled like players, because they don't get a chance to play as much as a lot of the people in our server do. And I'm also more lenient with them because they're my friends and my family when we're hanging out. I just want them to enjoy the game, right? So we do run into a lot of like, oh no, this person's off on their own. They're in trouble? Oh my god, I'm going to come up with any reason at all that my character is suddenly thinking about and worried about their character, or I'm going to make sure that my character goes over there and, we're going to save their life right now! And so, yeah, that's pretty metagamey. My other 2 Curse of Strahd groups, these people are so stone cold. I respect them like so much. They're like, yeah, we're gonna split up. This one guy is gonna go into this very dangerous place all by themselves. And it's like, this one guy is gonna go all by themselves. And they're like, okay, hold on. These 2 guys are gonna go all by themselves into this very dangerous, unknown scenario. And I'm like, if that's what you want to do. Okay. And so they do, right? And then the rest of the party's like, cool, well, we're going to go into another dangerous unknown scenario across town or across the world or, too far to help each other if anything goes wrong. And then for the last 2 or 3 weeks, everything keeps going wrong. And these people let it ride. These players are like, well, we aren't there. We can't help you. We aren't there. We can't even give you advice. We aren't there. We can't tell you what to do. We aren't there. We don't know where you are, man. Like, if you die, we don't even know where you are right now. Like, and they honor it. And I'm just like in awe. You want to talk about people that are good at not metagaming. Oh my god, my two Curse of Strahd Isekai groups are the pinnacle of, like, in my opinion, of not metagaming. And I am very impressed. I am very impressed because it cannot be easy. It is a stressful game and it is a hard game. And the desire to metagame must be there beneath the surface. Like, any chance to win, any chance to survive, any chance to just not feel horrible. But they honor the situation. They're like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know where you are, man. Like, I don't know that you know this. You never told me. I don't have this item. You never gave it to me. This item that would save our life is in the cart. Like, they'll do that. They'll do that. Now, I'll be like, is it in the cart? You tell me. If it's in the cart, it's in the cart. If it's on your character sheet, or if it should have been on your character sheet, like I don't want everybody to fucking die. You know, if it should have been on your character sheet, if you are convinced that you would have it in your character sheet, okay. And they're like, no, I left it on the cart. I don't have it. Guess we're all fucking dead. And I'm just like, oh my god. Okay. Like, it's really impressive. It's really impressive. So, so I am very happy. I've come from dealing with players that read the adventure and want to know where their magic item is because they went to the hidden cache where the magic item is, to players that are like, I guess we'll all fucking die because I left it on the cart.
I just can't with that story about this guy. I can't.
Yeah. So, any parting words? We're about 15 minutes over. Any parting words about metagaming?
You know what? It's metagaming is a player behavior, and it's not the GM's job to make the game metagaming proof.
Amen. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, my parting words are much the same. This is a player behavior. If there is any responsibility on the part of the GM, it is, of course, to be a coach, a teacher, a director, an organizer. You need to teach the players. You need to remind the players. You need to set those expectations for the players. And all of that, as always, a good session 0. If the player is not there for the session 0, a good onboarding of the player, talking with them ahead of time, explaining what kind of game you're running, making sure that's the kind of game they can actually play in, is very important. Communication, very important. I think that there are games and tables where metagaming is a part of life, and I am not saying that they are wrong or that they are playing D&D the wrong way. But I do think that everyone in a group needs to be in agreement about how much metagaming is allowed, what constitutes metagaming, and they all need to work together to make sure that metagaming is happening or not happening at the frequency that the group agrees upon. So, whew. All right. Well, I'm gonna go play some Final Fantasy 16 with my beautiful wife. So I hope
I'm gonna go play with my cats.
Okay, it's kind of the same thing. So I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday night. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning. I got 3 sessions left of Red Hand of Doom. Pretty exciting stuff's happening there. Tomorrow night I got my Curse of Strahd Classic group. Sunday morning we got Curse of Strahd Daybreak. Sunday night we got Mythic Odyssey. I don't even know where those guys are. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what they're fucking doing.
We don't know either.
But I know I got the whole goddamn campaign prep, so you can go wherever the fuck you want, I guess. Monday night, we're just going to cry a lot. Tuesday night, Cyberpunk Red and Abomination Vaults. Wednesday night, I'll be playing some more Dragon's Dogma. I swear to God, this time for reals. Thursday, we're going to do some Curse of Strahd Nightfall. Very excited about where that's headed. And then Friday, we might be back here to do another vodcast. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. All right. So thank you everybody for hanging out in chat. Sorry if we didn't get to everybody's thing. I'll go ahead and scoop up all these fanspirations and post them into the Discord before I log off for the night.
I just posted them.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. Well then, all right. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.
Alrighty. Take care.